potential disruption that's going to come about with automation and AI, that a lot of these jobs, manufacturing jobs, Teamsters, all that stuff is going to be eliminated. I mean, you're at the forefront of this. So how do you see this playing out? And what do you think that can be done to mitigate a lot of the loss of purpose that a lot of people are going to feel, loss of income? Obviously, universal basic income is being floated about, but that seems to me to only be part of the problem. Another big part of the problem is people losing a sense of purpose.
Yeah, no, we're talking about something which is still pretty far in the future.
How far do you think it is?
Well, I mean, it's probably, I don't know, 15, 20 years type of thing. So we've got like immediate issues. We've got short-term issues that are, I don't know, 1 to 3 years. Medium-term issues like 5 to 10 years. Longer-term issues which are like maybe 20 years. Longer-term, I think there is this question if you have AI and robotics, how do you find meaning in life? If the computer can do everything better than you can, and the robot can do everything better than you can. We've got a long way to go before that. And I do think it's like 80% likely to be a good outcome, like maybe 90. I think everyone's going to have their own like personal robot. And I think at a certain point, like, wouldn't you want to have your own personal C-3PO R2-D2?
So it's going to be essentially just like everyone has their own phone.
Yeah, everyone will have their own robot buddy. Like literally.
Well, it would be great if it protected you. Like if you walk down the street of New York City, you have a Terminator with you.
I don't know about the Terminator. Hopefully, we got to avoid. We don't want this to be the plot of a James Cameron. We want more Gene Roddenberry than James Cameron movie situation.
But it would be fascinating to watch some rich person walk down the street of New York City flanked by 2 giant Tesla robots. Jack Tesla robots
like
that were there to
RoboCop
protect
or
you.
But just fully robots.
Somebody fully robot there to protect you from a bad neighborhood.
Yeah.
That would be very interesting. You could potentially see that.
Yeah.
Restaurants would probably have no robot rules. You can't bring a robot.
Yeah, leave your robot.
Leave your robot outside. Your robot's standing by the table.
Man, the future's going to be wild.
It's going to be wild.
Yeah.
It's going to be really unpredictable. Like, you probably have a pretty good sense of it, but I think most people don't understand the wave that's coming.
Yeah.
And how it's going to kind of completely drown society and change it forever.
We have, like I said, it's not going to happen like overnight, but it's still like 20 years from now, I think there's going to be more humanoid robots than there are humans.
Really?
Yes.
More humanized? Well, that's so crazy. So that's like more guns. We have more guns than people in America. We'll have more robots than people in America as well.
Yes.
If it wasn't for Twitter, at the early Twitters, you would be kicked off forever if you just dead name someone. So
which is insane.
Insane.
Yeah.
Insane. I mean, especially if you think about all the things that, like the Harris campaign and what the lies that they've told about Trump. You don't get kicked off for that, but you get kicked off for calling Caitlyn Jenner Bruce forever, for life.
Yeah. It's totally insane.
Yeah. But if it wasn't for you buying that and changing Twitter, I don't think we would be where we're at right now. I think it was a pivotal moment. I think historically, when people look back on it, it's going to be a pivotal moment in this very bizarre fight for the freedom of information.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at the time I said, I think this is existential to the United States. It's existential to democracy, because if you don't have freedom of speech, you don't have democracy. Okay? Because if you don't have freedom of speech, people cannot make an informed vote. If they're just being fed propaganda and there's no freedom of speech, democracy is an illusion. So freedom of speech is the bedrock of democracy. That's why freedom of speech is the First Amendment. Once you lose freedom of speech, you lose democracy. Game over. That's why I bought Twitter.
And it seems so simple.
Yes.
It seems so clear that everyone should agree to that, on the left or on the right. The squirrel thing is bananas.
Yeah.
That squirrel thing in New York?
So here's the thing about the whole squirrel thing is that how can it be that we live in America, supposedly land of the free, and the government can barge into your home with guns, and so if you resist, you're going to get shot, and then take your pets and execute them. And if they can do that to your pets, what do you think they can do to you?
I know that's not an exaggeration.
Absolutely.
It sounds like you're oh, that's so crazy. How can you make that connection? But why would you kill that cute little squirrel that was obviously a pet and trained from the time it was a baby?
Yes.
If you see the interaction that guy has with that squirrel, it was wonderful. It was really cute.
Yes, absolutely. It was just obviously it was a beloved pet squirrel, and a raccoon too, and doing no harm. And the government comes in, barges into the guy's house, takes his pets and kills them. I think this should really get people out there mobilized, frankly. America being the land of opportunity means that we have an environment where you succeed as a function of your hard work and skill.
Yes.
And that's
radical.
Yeah,
radical. Like the best person succeeds.
This makes you right wing now.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, great. Pull me right wing. I don't care. So, you're not a real country unless you have secure borders. You're just a fake country. And our cities are unsafe and dirty. My mom was telling me, my mom's like pretty red pilled at this point. But you know what's going to red pill you really, really fast is having your friends get assaulted on the streets of New York.
Yeah.
And that happened to 3 of her friends this year. Got assaulted on the streets of New York, just walking around.
Yeah.
And nobody got arrested. Nothing happened.
Well, the morale of the police is like depleted.
Yeah,
substantially.
For sure, the morale of the police gets depleted, and then also like at some point, like if you're a police officer and you're arresting someone who's violent, you're putting your life at risk, obviously, because they might, sometimes they'll try to kill you. And then if you know that arresting this violent person, they will be immediately released by the DA, which happens in New York. Alvin Bragg doesn't prosecute people. Then why should a police officer put their life at risk to arrest someone when they know that they will just be let out immediately?
Yeah,
it's pointless.
Yeah,
it's like the friggin' Joker. It's like Dark Knight, like the friggin' Joker is in charge.
Yeah.
Like the criminals run free and the citizens are arrested. That like this is why I like keep coming back to this like still pretty shook about the friggin' squirrel thing. It's like at gunpoint forced the guy to like stay outside his house while they got his pets and killed them. Meanwhile, violent felons are running free, and this is in New York State, are running free. This is a Joker.
Yeah, it's not.
The law-abiding citizens are arrested, and the criminals are let free. This is up, guys.
Just the fact that they have the resources to do that when they have all the crime that they have. You have the resources, the government resources to go kill someone's squirrel.
Yeah.
What this whole idea of this government efficiency agency?
The government, yeah. I mean, call it whatever you want. But
what do you want to call it? What do you call it?
I mean, I think the funniest name is DOGE, the Doge. Department of Government Efficiency. Yeah, I mean the idea is pretty simple. Is that like we've got this suffocating, massive federal bureaucracy, and the government spending is like bankrupting the country. Our interest payments on the national debt now exceed the Defense Department budget, which is the Defense Department budget is like $1 trillion a year. Interest payments on the national debt are now higher than the Defense Department budget, and growing like every month. So it's not like basically we're on a path to bankruptcy. America's on a path to bankruptcy. So we have to cut government spending, or we're just going to go bankrupt, just like a person would if that overspends. But it's even worse than that. Like we're spending money on all these these government agencies, and I actually asked the AI like how many government agencies are there, and the government isn't even sure how many government agencies there are. So it's like somewhere around 450, depending on what you call an agency. So they're at the federal level. So that's almost twice as many agencies as years that America has existed. So we're creating agencies at roughly 2 agencies a year.
Wow.
Yes, this is insane. I bet I wonder if there's even one person who could even name all the 450 agencies.
How are you going to have the time to oversee all this?
Well, I'm pretty good at improving efficiency. I mean,
I would say so.
Yeah,
but still, this seems like a giant undertaking.
Yeah, I'll probably need to beef up security. The left actually, interestingly, does not want to pick up much on this argument because the more attention the more you look at it, the more obviously it is true. Because you just say like, well, are the numbers correct? Are there really this many illegals that have been imported into swing states? Yes. They haven't just walked across the border. They've been flown in airplanes.
Yeah, using a shipping app.
Yes.
Yeah.
They made an app.
Well, the app always existed, but it used to be for people coming over here, like shipping with goods, so they could track you while you're in America, so you could legally be here, they know where you are. And then they changed it to allow that app to schedule illegal aliens to come across the border.
Yes.
Asylum seekers.
Yes.
Come on in.
Yes.
Oh, you have an app. And you fly people in.
They're literally being flown in to the swing states. Sometimes I get the rebuttal of people say like, well, these illegals they don't have the same social values as the Democrat Party because they're like more socially conservative. I'm like, yeah, but that's not the point. If you look at the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, their primary thing is staying in the country and getting their friends and family in, and then the Democrats give them all these benefits, like tons of benefits, more benefits than than citizens, literally.
Yeah.
They're beholden to the Democrats for all these benefits. They want to get their friends and family in, which the Democrats support and the Republicans don't. So they vote Dem.
Here's a statistic that people need to take into consideration when you think about illegal immigration. Do you know how many kids are missing? How many
missing and what?
Kids that came across the border that are unaccounted for?
I saw a number on like 300,000 or something like that.
Something crazy like that.
Yeah.
Let's say it's only 10% of that.
Sure.
That's still insane.
Yeah.
That's insane. There's thousands and tens of thousands of kids that have been trafficked potentially. I mean, when you know that like sex trafficking and child trafficking is a real thing in the world, it's real.
Yeah.
So if you know that, this whole thing is f***ing disgusting and terrifying.
Yeah, absolutely.
And people are just turning a blind eye to it because their ideology, the left-wing ideology, supports this idea that immigration is overall good and that you have to be a compassionate person to let these people in, and that you're racist if you don't want 20,000 immigrants from a war-torn country being imported into a town of 30,000 people.
Exactly.
And completely changing the dynamic of and then
but as long as they don't come to your town.
Exactly.
Like that's it.
I mean, what are we going to be looking at 100 years from now? I mean, when you...
Around 100 years from now, I hope civilization's around. Yeah, that'll be a win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are the chances that we fuck this whole thing up? 50%?
It's hard to say. I mean, I guess not. Like, I don't think civilization will be totally destroyed unless there's like some really massive global thermonuclear war. But I mean, Stephen Hawking, he would say that there was like at least a 1% chance of total annihilation every century. That was his rough estimate. But there's a much bigger chance of civilization being less capable than it is today. So you say like, well, because you look at, say, well, these various civilizations throughout history, whether it's like ancient Sumerians or the Egyptians, the Romans, like there's like a life cycle to civilization. They reached a peak and then they started subsiding. So I think a bigger question is like, well, will our technology level be better or worse than it is today in 100 years? I think it's probably going to be better. I think, but any estimates are going to be there's so many dependencies. Like an estimate, I think I'm not sure it has any meaning because it's like there's so many things that can happen in 100 years.
Well, the logical hope is always that people pay attention to history and they recognize the patterns and how civilizations have collapsed.
Yeah.
And they recognize what's going wrong in the current society and say, we have to do our best to mitigate this. And we've seen this happen before. Let's course correct and let's sort of manage what we've got here now and maintain what we've got here now because it's pretty extraordinary. How much thought have you, because there's always these rumors, and I've contacted you about this before, but there's always these YouTube videos where they're talking about a Tesla phone, releasing a Tesla phone.
No, we're not doing a phone.
Have you ever thought about it?
I mean, we could do a phone since like the operating system in the Tesla, it's Linux based, but we've written a massive amount of software on top of that. So like probably Tesla's in a better position to create a new phone that's not Android or iPhone than maybe any company in the world. But it's not something we want to do unless we have to or something.
What would be the situation where you would have to?
Well, I think if Apple and Google / Android started doing really bad things like, I don't know, like censorship of apps or being like gatekeepers, in a really bad way, then I guess we'd make a phone. Did
you ever pay attention to when John McAfee was cooking meth in a lab in his backyard?
I mean, McAfee's quite a character.
He was a character.
Man.
We had him on the podcast when he was on the run. So he called in from an undisclosed location when he was running from, where was he, Costa Rica? Is that where he was?
Belize,
right. So when he was running from the authorities, he called in. We had him on the podcast on the run. And I was asking him about these posts, like, because there was an online account that was linked to him where he had this very detailed laboratory, like super sophisticated, making the best meth, like a super genius cooking meth.
I mean, I think he had his lab, like he was making like a wide range of drugs. And there was I talked to a reporter who went down and like interviewed him in Belize, and the reporter said, "Man, that's one of the scariest things." He was quite terrified. So like one of the things that McAfee he had, I guess, this trick where he would play Russian roulette with himself. So he'd put a bullet in the revolver and they'd spin the chamber. And clearly he had like some like trick to know that it was not way that he knows it's not the right bullet. But I do wonder, like, if McAfee's high and he does that, he's not always going to get the trick right. You
sure he had a trick? Or maybe
So according to this reporter, when he went to visit McAfee in Belize, McAfee took out the revolver, put a bullet in the revolver, spun the chamber, and then pointed at his head and went click. And the reporter's like saying, "Please don't do this. Like, this is insane." Click, click, click. and then pointed the gun at the ground, and next went click, bang, and shot a bullet in the ground.
Jesus.
That's a hell of a party trick.
Jesus.
It's the next level party
That's
trick.
the guy who's seen the Deer Hunter too many times.
Yes. I mean, Kamala can't even talk. That you invited her on your show. I think the most damage that could possibly be done to a campaign is going on your show and seeing what she says in hours 2 and 3.
2 and 3 is when things get
2
spicy.
and 3.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God.
You could hide for 20
She's gonna
minutes.
melt.
You can hide for 20 minutes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, you can just regurgitate talking points for half an hour, maybe an hour, just where she's just saying like non sequiturs, but eventually she just runs out of non sequiturs.
Well, they wanted to limit it to an hour.
Exactly, that's why.
But I was thinking of doing it initially before Trump came here. First of all, when they found out that there was a rumor, I never announced that Trump was coming. What I was going to do is just release it. The way I like to do things, I don't like to tell anybody who's coming on. It'll get big no matter what.
Yeah, sure.
If Trump was on, it would have been huge. I'm like, just put it out there. People go crazy.
Yeah.
But he apparently, or someone from his organization, some loose lips, and then it got out. And so she contacted my management company, and her organization, her campaign contacted us and said, would Joe have her on? I said, yes. And they said, she wants you to fly to where she is, and she's only willing to do 45 minutes.
Only 40. I mean, that's
And I was
Yeah.
like, oh, no. So I thought about doing it. I'm like, maybe I can get a sense. Maybe I could convince her. Maybe I could coax her into doing more time. I just wanted to talk to her.
Yes.
Well, I don't give a what we talk about. We talk about recipes. I don't give a shit.
Exactly.
Just talk to me.
The things like you just can't you can't just output bullshit non sequiturs for 3 hours.
Right.
But
You
for
have to
45
talk.
minutes you could do.
I thought maybe for 45 minutes I could get something out of it. But then when Trump came and did the 3 hours, I was like, you know what? It has to be like this. This is the only way.
To be fair, it's got to be like a 3 hours.
And it should be in this room.
Yes.
Because this room has like a history of people
This room has
expressing
good vibes,
themselves.
actually.
Yeah, it's got good vibes.
Yeah, it does.